Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. We have Gary Lipovetsky here. It looks like we're having a podcast, but actually we really wanted to try and have a really solid, good sound for this Q&A. So this is why this looks like a podcast episode. Today we're doing another Q&A. I know you guys love it. We're going to do a Q&A about parenting. I feel like we never really... Are you okay? There's always different questions about like how we deal with tantrums or with the kids or discipline, anything like that. So we wanted to really like grab the most amount of relevant questions that we got from you and answer them truthfully and honestly, because by no means there's like two experts sitting here preaching, okay? Let's just remember that.
I don't know about that. Our kids are pretty awesome, so I think we're experts to a certain degree.
But first I want to say a huge thank you to Joe Fresh for sponsoring this video and making sure we are video ready with our Joe Fresh fits. So thank you. And are you ready? I'm going to start grilling you on your parenting styles.
All right, go ahead.
First question, how did you decide on each of the boys' names?
Shortly after you and I met, I made it very clear that, you know, we will at some point get married and have a child, and that first child, he will be a boy and his name will be Jake. And I remember you agreeing. My grandfather, who I was very close with, he passed away when I was 13 years old, and his name was Yaakov. Yaakov translates to Jacob. I'm not crazy about the name Jacob, so I said to myself at the age of 13, when my grandfather passed away, that I would have a son. It would be my firstborn child, and his name would be Jake. So I've known Jake since I was 13, some 35 years ago. So that's the origin of Jake, and you readily agreed, because you said you liked the name, but later on I found out that she had an ex-boyfriend named Jake, which shattered my life.
Absolutely not a boyfriend. It was
a guy you liked.
It was a boy that I saw on vacation for 2 days, and I was like, oh my God.
With Benjamin, you said I like the name Benjamin.
I love the name Benjamin.
And I agreed. Now, we struggled a little bit with Max.
It wasn't a struggle. It was just like there were two names that we were very passionate about. I was heavily on the fence between Maximus, which I loved, but also I really loved the name Leo.
The thing is that we chose the two names that we really, really liked, which was Jake and Ben. And it's hard when you have a third child that's the same gender to find another name that you like, because you've already used the two that you really, really like.
Because it was supposed to be a Leah or a Sophia.
We named them Max. We saw the name Max, and then I chose Maximus.
You did. And I love it. Maximus is very powerful.
Very
And also
powerful.
so cute. Maximo. Okay. Are you raising your children bilingual?
We speak Russian, and we would love for our kids to speak Russian. But Valeria and I, we were both raised by parents whose native tongue was Russian, and they spoke to us only in Russian. With our kids, our English is far stronger than our Russian. So when we're speaking with our kids, in order to convey the lessons, just the day-to-day communications, we're able to express ourselves much better in English. So should we be speaking with them in Russian? Yes, we should. But I just feel that the quality of the communication and the quality of the lessons that we want to convey to our kids is going to be difficult.
Very entry level.
That being said, they do speak a little bit of Russian. Jake and Ben do, because they went to a Russian daycare for, I think, 3 years. They also talked to Valeria's mom in Russian. So they speak Russian there, but I haven't told the boys yet, but we found apparently a school for Saturdays that'll hold them for 5 hours, and they'll be speaking exclusively Russian to them. So I think that's going to be good. So we definitely want to make the attempt.
Do the boys like being included in shoots? You know what? I feel like before Jake and Ben were a bit more like they would go with the flow. And now it's a bit harder. It's tricky because I feel like earlier they were like fine with being in the pictures, and now as they get older they're a bit more like reserved and not necessarily always up to it, which is totally fine. It's actually funny because I feel like you would see it in my content where you start seeing less and less of them, and I'm totally happy with that. I mean, at the end of the day, even when they were in shots before, we always like kind of ask them, they'll tell them what we're doing and things like that. So now when they say that they're not interested, we respect it. But I managed to do something really wonderful. We did this really cute PJ shoot with the kids. We're all wearing our Joe Fresh PJs. Maxie was really into it. The boys were like, you know, if you have kids and you're trying to get them all looking at the camera or like taking pictures, it's a bit of a madhouse, but it's part of the fun. I decided to make the children take family photos. Got us all matching pajamas. Because I'm that mom. I'm that mom. We're matching.
If you guys subscribe, I'll give you all my crackers.
Wow, can I have a cracker? Cheers. Not everyone is in the holiday spirit today.
Just me. I said, don't talk to me.
It's time for family shoot.
I did job.
How about like this from here, Miguel? Maxie, look at the ceiling.
Careful.
Singing Jingle Bells. Ready? Look at Miguel. Yay! Maxie, there we go. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Are you sleeping? No fighting, no fighting. Get the scarf.
Ew, armpits.
And honestly, those are the photos that, like, I just need those like a couple of times a year, and then at least I have these like moments, you know, that will be cherished, like professional, awesome moments. So I'm very proud and very happy about that. Gary was looking fly in his Joe Fresh pajamas.
I'm always into taking pictures and being in the content because I'm a team player, and
Right.
I don't think the boys don't want to be in the content. I just think in general your content has shifted kind of away from family vlogs and into just
to give
different
them
things.
more like privacy and space to do their own thing. Anyways, I really hope you appreciated our PJ shoot. If you guys are loving the PJs, don't forget that I have a special code Valeria25 for 25% off on Joe Fresh, so check that out. What are the most important values you hope to instill into your boys?
Resilience is really important, and one of the reasons that I'm so big on them doing sports is to develop that sense of resilience in terms of not giving up. You know, obviously things like kindness, honesty, those are all really, really important things to me, but I really do feel that for any human being, one of the prerequisites in general to long-term prosperity and happiness is the ability and the will to not give up when things get difficult. So for me, I'm always trying to find those lessons in their day-to-day lives to help them build up that resilience and build up that will to continue even when things get difficult.
I think that for me, and I mentioned it to you the other day when we were talking, the most challenging thing to teach your children in this day and age is delayed gratification. Like everything you do, you need to see a result right away, and it becomes an addiction, and we're just so used to living that way. So I think that, to Gary's point, sports is a wonderful thing to do because, you know, you don't really have much skill, you're not very great at it, and then slowly when you stick to it and you continue to practice, you start seeing results. And I think we even seen like the way the boys are now at their jiu-jitsu that Gary takes them, just the way they even carry themselves, and it's really cool. How do you curb screen addiction in your children?
This is definitely a challenge. I mean, you have to call it what it is. It's definitely a problem. The entire industry that, you know, around social media and the internet and just data and content doesn't take into account the well-being of children. It's really tough. It's tough because in order for us to actually decrease screen time, we literally have to remove the internet connection in our home. So yeah, it's tough, and I'm not sure how to deal with it because, let's say, for example, there are a lot of things on YouTube that I just feel are inappropriate, and it's hurting the boys. But unfortunately on YouTube, you can't filter out by topic. You can't filter out certain channels. So yeah, it's definitely
even
a problem.
on YouTube Kids, like I know some people will say use YouTube Kids, but even on YouTube Kids, like they create these different videos where in the videos it looks innocent on the outside, and then I would walk by and be like, what are you watching? So I feel like that's probably one of my biggest mom guilts, just the amount of exposure to technology. And because, you know, we're both working and, you know, trying to build like all these different things that we're really passionate about, it's difficult to be around all the time to like supervise that. On the other hand, there is a lot of great information out there. You can learn so much, but yes, I really hope that with time, YouTube and all these like big companies would kind of have a better grasp on like what's on it and who is exposed to it, because it's really tough. Like I wish I could tell you that for us, we have it all figured out, but we really don't.
I also think that one of the things that helps is keeping them busy with other things. And that's why, going back to sports, like they're obviously in school, they do enrichment programs after school. So I think keeping your kids busy in general and having that as an alternative to screen time is really helpful. So it's about doing other things outside of the games that I believe will help decrease it.
When did Gary become more competent with the boys?
I don't think competent is the right word. I think the correct question is, when did I become more involved with the kids? And in the beginning, when they were babies, I was far less involved. I've gotten a lot of criticism for this, just in terms of like reading some of the comments when you and I have talked about this. I think that, for me, I wasn't into the diaper changing, and I wasn't into a lot of that kind of early
Now, the
kid
way
stuff.
you say it, I wasn't into it either.
I know you weren't into it either, and it sounds terrible of me, but I don't know how to save face on this, but it is what it is, right? Then, and the thing is I remember I felt that you were disappointed in me because you felt that I wasn't at that time a parent who contributed, and you felt that I was going to be that way moving forward. And what I told you then is, I said to Valeria, I said, right now I'm not going to be as involved. My involvement will be later on. And as the children evolved, and I would say maybe when they were like already 4 or 5, whereas before when I wasn't able to communicate with them and we couldn't have a dialogue, my involvement was less. But now it's those lessons, it's the conversations, it's correcting of the behavior, it's encouraging them when they do well in something. So I feel I'm much more involved now.
It's true. I was a bit disappointed. I was like, okay, so I guess I'm doing this by myself. But he really came through, and I think that he comes through, especially now during this time. Something that happens, like there's a lesson there, and Gary's very, very good in really teaching them those lessons and passing down his lessons. So I'm really proud of you. You're doing
Thank
great.
you. Getting back, to what I had said earlier about resilience, when they try a new sport, so let's say when Ben started tennis, his first couple of lessons, he was just storming off, and I would pull him aside and I would tell him, son, like, this is something new, so you're not going to be good at things right away, and you do have to take that time. You do have to put in the effort and not give up, and over time you will become better at it. So things like that, I'm finding these little lessons in everything that they do. I'm not thinking about something that they can use now and benefit from now, but I'm thinking, how is this going to play out when they're adults? Like, how are they going to behave themselves, and how are they going to deal with certain situations when they're adults?
They always know they can come to me, and I'm obviously just like softer, and just the mother-son connection has in its essence more of like the nurturing. What I love about now in the past few years,
right.
I think that it's really amazing for them to have someone that they can relate to and see themselves in. Hearing all those encouraging lessons and all those words from you, I think that it's such a big character building. Just getting that confirmation and love and support from like their father.
I have this theory that isn't always potentially well received, but just from my own experience with my mother and my father, let's put it this way: mothers have a priority that their kids love them, and it's not a negative thing, and it's not a selfish thing. Where I feel with fathers, or at least my father and me, and I hate to sound so morbid, but my priority is for our kids to be able to take care of themselves after I'm dead. I'm preparing them from a time when I'm not around to help anymore. As an added benefit, the kids really, really love me. That to me is an added benefit. That's secondary.
It's not morbid. I feel like people need to talk about that more often. How do you handle your children's tantrums, especially in public? I feel like
I'm bad at it.
Really?
I feel I'm bad at it. I'm better at it now
You're so much better at it
I'm
now.
better at it now than I used to be, but when you have no experience with kids...
Like, oh my God, with Jake?
Jake was a difficult guy.
He wasn't a difficult guy. We were just like so on edge, and we so didn't know what kind of parents we are. We went into like stressful mode right away. It was pretty traumatizing. I'm actually kind of surprised how fast we decided to get pregnant with Ben, considering like how stressed we were with Jake being our first child.
Jake started becoming challenging when he hit his terrible twos. I don't feel Jake was challenging maybe he was challenging for you, because again, I wasn't super participating in
it wasn't that. I feel like I was just so scared of my own shadow, and so like didn't know what the hell I was doing, and so lost that every little thing was a big deal. I think that these days, first of all, we don't have much tantrums with them, because with Jake and Ben, they're kind of older. They can misbehave. Sometimes we're in the right frame of mind, and if Gary will take him to the side, explain to him what's wrong with this. Other times it'll be like you're punished, and other times I'll lose my shit and start screaming. So there are different things that happen, and I try my best every day. I try to do my best, but we're also humans and things happen.
I think the first thing to do when your child is having a tantrum in public is not care what other people are thinking, because realistically speaking, if anybody else who's seeing the situation as a parent, they've dealt with it too, there's no reason to feel embarrassed or feel any kind of way in front of other people about it. You gotta keep calm. It's just like any other.
They're just like on a wave, you gotta let them ride the wave and it will be done with. And something really interesting that I've read, I think a couple of years ago, was like, before they used to recommend, parenting experts used to recommend to like try to distract the child, maybe like, oh, here's a toy, or do you want to play a game? But it's interesting because I heard this like one insight being like, why do you want to actually distract the child from the way it feels? Give them that space to feel it, so it doesn't become kind of a mechanism for them to distract themselves whenever something come up. I thought that makes sense, like to just let you do your thing.
In general, when children have tantrums and when children misbehave, I try to keep in mind these are human beings who have not yet mastered their own emotions. You have to give them that space to evolve and to develop. Whenever it comes to disciplining a child because they're having a tantrum, I always ask myself the question, is my behavior, is it because I'm angry and I want to get back at them for putting me in the situation?
Yeah.
Or am I acting and behaving out of their interest? And I find that regardless of how difficult the situation may be, I stop before I react and I ask myself, is what I'm about to do or say for my benefit, or is what I'm doing in their benefit in order to help them become who I wish for them to be?
Just for the record, I do the same, but sometimes it doesn't really go the way it should be. So just keeping it honest. How do you deal with sibling competition and fighting? They obviously fight a lot because they're always together. They're doing the same things all the time. There's a lot of clashes. But recently, what I've noticed is Jake being like, this is my friend. This is not your friend. Like, stop taking my friends to Ben, like that kind of thing, which I've never seen happening before. Now they really want to establish their own environments, and when I say they, I mean Jake very much wants to like establish his own environment. These are my friends, this is my room. So it's starting to happen, this like slow separation of that we're always together.
I think when you have two people in a home who are obviously young, and going back to the concept of it's a new human who hasn't fully learn to kind of tame their emotions. You have two people who are trying to occupy the same space at the same time. They're trying to get the same attention from their parents because, and it's finite, right? Everything around them is finite. All of these resources around them are finite. But it's true, no?
I like the word finite.
Okay. They're all fighting for the same resources. And so you have to teach the kids and you have to explain to them that rather than being in competition with each other, they have to be in partnership with each other. They have to be in partnership in order to achieve their common goals. Those are the things that I talk with Jake and Ben a lot about. And I always explain to them that you guys are brothers. You to each other are the most important people. And after everything else is said and done, you guys have to take care of each other. So I always try to come back to that. And to me, the most offensive thing that the kids can do is when they fight each other. And that's what I'm always telling them. And they're doing it less and less. No? You don't think so?
It's up and down. When did you start feeling like yourself again after having each of your boys? With Jake, I don't feel like I was fully back to myself before I got pregnant with Ben. This is my flow, like I'm getting into it. But then with Max, it was probably the hardest one for me. I'm already at the end of that journey, like going back to myself, but I'm still going through certain things with it. That was very difficult for me because I was working like full time. I was trying to play this like Wonder Woman like character for myself. Like at the hospital I was already working and just gave birth. Like I pushed myself way too hard, too fast. That really created like a long lasting burnout for me. So that was very difficult. And I think that for me personally, the transition from 2 to 3 was very hard as well, because although we have help and amazing help, it's still like it's us, right? We're the parents. It's the attention, the emotional attention you give each child, and it was a lot. And I really beat myself up over it, and honestly still I feel like I'm kind of dealing with this. I think most parents with more than one child feel that way because you're always trying to make sure that everyone gets what they need. So bring into the equation like a career, a marriage, relationship, you're taking care of yourself. It's a lot. Whenever I get asked that question, I always say like there's no specific timeline. It's really about you. It's really about, the boundaries you set and how soon you set them. It's about how much help you ask and how resistant you are to other people to step in and help you. Like there's a lot of different variables. How do you handle mom guilt?
There you go.
I just curl and cry. I feel like every other mom, you really feel it. Actually, last night I had like a super crazy anxiety over like the boys, and I've never necessarily dealt with like anxiety attacks. And last night, like I woke up, Gary, I was like, oh my God, the kids. There are certain periods in life where I'm just like, it's okay. Like I can't be there all the time, but I'm there when it matters. And, it's important for me to fulfill myself. It's important for me to do all these things. And it makes sense, like it clicks. But then there are periods where it just takes over you. It's like a dark cloud. For me, it really helps to talk to Gary. I think Gary is truly like an amazing support system for me to just like shake me out of this and remind me that, we're doing our best and how can he help and support me more and things like that. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot with mom guilt, and I don't think that there's kind of a solution for it. I think that it just kind of, you have to go through the motion and just like to remind yourself, to recenter yourself, and to at the end of the day look at the kids and, if they're kind and they're happy, and that's really all that matters. And to communicate with them a lot. Like I always try to ask them, Benny, do you feel like I spent enough time with you? Do you want more time with me? I ask the same with Jake. I try to spend time alone with Max as well whenever I can. So that's kind of how I get to handle that situation. How do you separate your time as a couple from your time as a family? Honestly, we schedule it. Like we have going out, like social nights, but then we also have like our date night every week.
Yeah, it's been a while. We've been really busy. You were in and out of town. We've been really busy,
yeah. But that's usually kind of how we really get like separate time alone.
And just for the record, for if you're a new parent out there, as your kid gets older, the concept of privacy just melts away, because once your kids can walk around, they just walk in and out of your room. They don't knock. So it's like you're always on high alert. You could be going to the bathroom and all of a sudden, there's a kid right beside you. Like, so they're always... I didn't realize this was a musical.
How do you find time for yourself?
I've been really bad at this. Up until like recently, all of my time has been consumed with work and family divided up between Valeria and the kids. I'm just being more social now, because now we're just in a place where people are out and about more. So yeah, I find that relationships with friends, new friends, I find that's really beneficial, and that's really helped, and I feel that's recentered me a lot.
Actually, Gary always says like, my life is about you and the kids, my life is about you and the kids, and I appreciate it very much, but I also remind him like that's not necessarily the healthiest thing. Yeah, so I'm really proud of you for like taking the time and prioritizing it. I think that's the word. It's difficult to prioritize it for you because you put everything else first. I'm very happy that you decided to.
Thank you.
To have you time. For me, I'm the same. I like demand solitude. And I feel like even Gary can feel when I need time alone, because I start like getting really cold and like disconnected and disengaged.
I just run away.
He's like, maybe you should go and stay like at the hotel or something. Maybe do you want to go on like a trip by yourself? He gets into high alert then and make sure that I get it. But usually I try not to get to that point, and like even if I can just have the day or a few hours for myself, or just go and like spend some time, I don't know, like walking around, just like anything. I'm very specific for like time alone. So for me, it's not challenging. And we do have help. Kids are at school or they're at activities. So I do find like times where I can get that in. What's the most challenging part of becoming parents? Everything.
I don't think anybody can ever be prepared for it. I think no matter how many people you speak with, even talking to your parents, you can't prepare yourself for it, because the psychological shift that happens and everything that's involved with that, in terms of your emotions, your feelings, the time commitment, just the complete reshuffling of your priorities in life, it's not an easy thing to do. I find that it doesn't get easier with time. It's common that I think back to the time before the kids and I think, wow, that was easy. That was so easy.
Or just like that freedom of just, like, I can't even explain it. You just do things without like thinking and overthinking it, and how does it affect this and how does it affect that, and how much time do I have like for the activity.
So here's the thing, like at that time before kids, whatever I was dealing with, it also felt not hard, but it felt like busy. But looking back at it now,
my God,
that was, I look at people who don't have kids and they talk about how busy they are and how difficult things are, and I'm just like, wow. For me, no matter how difficult it is and no matter how tough it seems and scary it is sometimes, it's definitely worth it.
I have to confess, I have like a small group of like mom friends that we're a support system to each other, and there are times where I call them or call one of them and be like, remind me why I decided to have kids. Like, just remind me, because I'm just so deep in like the anxiety and stress of it all. And we always laugh about it, but it's true. It's like these tiny little moments, like a fart or like a giggle, that you're like, oh, right, this, you can't explain that feeling.
I think the farts are funny when they're really small. They're not so funny now. Remember that one time when it was just Jake
on the plane?
Yeah, and we were coming back from a flight, and the flight was delayed multiple times, and it was supposed to be a 3-hour flight, but it took like 14 hours, and everybody on that flight was just so upset. The tension on the plane was incredible, and we're all finally trying to get out, and I'm holding Jake. He was 8 months, and Jake lets out this really loud fart, and it's amazing the effect children have. Everybody on that plane who was ready to slice each other's throats, everybody burst into laughter, and it just cut that tension, and I think it brought everybody back to like, life is beautiful.
Yeah, so I think the best part is that it's just like seeing these creations of yours, and all these things and all these lessons and all these skills they learn from the world and what you exposed them to, and it's just amazing. It's so scary and so frightening and very anxiety driven, but beautiful and very intense, and you never feel love like this. I've never felt love like this before, so it's one hell of a ride. But those are all my questions.
That's it? There's no more questions?
No more questions. I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. Let us know if there's any other questions you wanted for us to talk about. We really enjoyed it. Let me know if you like this format and if the sound is like it, because that's what we're trying to figure that out. I wanted to say a huge thank you to Joe Fresh for sponsoring this video. And again, remember, if you want to get some goodies, you can use my code Valeria25 for 25% off. Get it and send me screenshots. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're great. We should do this again.
We do this all the time.